So as long as you're getting enough calories, you'll always get enough protein. So protein's not a nutrient of concern at all. So just get enough calories, wide variety of whole plant foods, you'll get plenty of protein. And then foods like beans are the highest in protein. Good 25% of the calories are protein in things like beans and lentils, like other legumes. But even then, you don't really have to worry about getting enough. So it's fiber that's the nutrient of concern. That's the deficiency nutrient in the American diet is actually fiber, and none of the animal products have any fiber.
So
that's the short. That's the short of it. Yeah,
that's kind of news to you, it sounds like.
Yeah.
And you might be surprised to learn that spinach is 40 to 50% protein. Why is that? Because all protein, the building blocks are made by plants.
Yes. Yeah. All right. Okay. Thank you.
Just eat enough calories so that you're not hungry throughout the whole day, and you get enough protein.
Yeah. I got to change that because I only eat one meal a day and I shouldn't do that. I think I need to eat a little more. Yes. Thank you very much. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Yes.
Anybody else have anything to add?
I have a question.
Sure.
Well, and kind of a story. I've been vegetarian most of my adult life and mostly vegan the last several years. And about 2 weeks ago, I started to get really severe pain in my right hand, and it was swollen and red, and especially at night and in the morning, really painful. And so, I thought it was maybe arthritic, and what I know this class is about. And I went to a doctor. He ordered an x-ray. The x-ray showed not any arthritis to speak of, nothing significant. He did a blood thing of, what's that other kind of arthritis? Rheumatoid, yes, thank you. And that came back negative. And what other blood work showed was that I had kind of high calcium, a little bit over the norm, and very high folate, like the folate number was 24, and pretty high B12, which really surprised me because I tend to have lower B12 typically. And then I started doing a little reading, and it said that if there's too much folate, it could make a B12 deficiency that doesn't show. It could hide a B12 deficiency. And I read symptoms of B12 deficiency and high folate, and they're similar to what I'm experiencing or could be. So I don't know what to do about that.
So having it's actually that folate number is actually normal. You actually want to have that's eating a lot of folate is from getting foliage, from getting vegetables. So you'll get plenty of folate from just eating whole plant foods. It's folic acid supplements that you don't want to take because that can cause cancer.
No,
so
I
it's
don't. But 24 was way above the range that presented as normal in the on my.
I think that my recollection that's a good number. It's nothing you need to worry about. Your for the B12, the most accurate blood test for B12 is MMA, methylmalonic acid, and so that's usually the best test to check for B12. But if you're eating a whole food plant-based diet, we do recommend you're taking 1,000 micrograms of vitamin B12 daily anyway. So just to cover yourself, and it's a water soluble vitamin, so there is no toxicity when it comes to B12. So again, MMA is the best test for B12. It's even better than just direct B12. And then I wouldn't worry at all about your folate levels. That's actually good.
Yeah, the normal range is 2.7 to 17 nanograms per milliliter.
Oh, is that?
So if you're at 24, you're just slightly above the folate level range. So I would not think twice about that. And again, to reinforce what Scott just said, MMA level if you're worried about vitamin B12 deficiency.
Okay. Do you think what I described of my symptoms could be a B12 deficiency?
I don't, it doesn't ring a bell with me. I'm more neurologic kind of symptoms.
It's usually neuropathy and things like
Oh,
that.
my hand is almost completely numb. I can't feel much with it, and tingly. It feels like nerve stuff.
And usually when with B12 deficiency, it's the neuropathy is like, everywhere, every finger, every toe. It's the entire body usually, but mostly in the fingers and toes. But when it's just, a particular finger or one side or the other, I would be thinking about like carpal tunnel syndrome. They might, want to check for that. But then there's all kinds of neuropathies. But if you're B12 or folate are low, then you want to make sure. Of course, your folate's fine, but get your MMA checked. But I would doubt your B12 is low if you're taking a supplement. Are you taking a supplement?
B12.
Yeah,
I do take a supplement, but I often forget.
yeah, and it takes a good 3 years to get deficient anyway. If you were completely plant-based and didn't have any supply of B12 in your diet, it would take usually about 3 years to become deficient.
I see. Huh.
I
did-
just wanted to make one
Alice,
comment.
go ahead.
Yeah, so normal values, they take the people in your area and they take like 10,000 test results
Mhm.
and then they make a bell curve.
Right.
And most people don't eat enough vegetables. So a normal folate level is for like the McDonald's eaters that aren't eating enough folate, and that's the norm for the area. It changes like based on the population there. So that high folate, I think, is a good thing. I don't, and the reason it's higher than everybody else is because you're eating lots of veggies.
I see.
Exactly. It's good to be high. And I think
Yeah.
I just had a blood test on another patient this last week that was like 20, like low 20s. And that was actually for here, that was in the normal range. And so that's why doesn't sound like a high number at all. It sounds like where you should be.
I guess I'm back to square one and figuring out what's going on.
Well, see a neurologist. It could be anything from your neck on down, like Scott said, to carpal tunnel syndrome or whatever it might be. And so you may have a simple issue to resolve, or it may be more complex, but doesn't seem like it's related to a dietary thing from the three providers that I recognize in the room here.
I see. Okay. Well, when I did the protocol that's recommended for carpal tunnel syndrome, but wearing a wrist brace actually made it worse and hurt a lot. So I don't know. I'll have to
Hey, you
figure
might
it.
need nerve conduction studies. Yeah, definitely something to see your provider about.
Yes. Okay. Thanks for trying to help.
That's what we're here for. Okay, anybody else have anything else? We have time for one or two more questions. Go ahead, Carol. Unmute yourself first.
Okay, we'll try that again.
There you go.
I just wanted to say how much I appreciate you guys doing what you do. I've been on the plant-based diet, I think now about 5 weeks. A fabulous side effect for me was that I've lost 10 pounds in that 5 weeks, which I attribute mainly to my oil use and sugar and cravings. One of there's along with the surprise of the weight has been I'm just not having cravings for junk food like I used to. Once you get off that sugar, it's just feels so good. I finish with a meal and actually I'm having a hard time eating what you guys recommend in the daily dozen.
Yeah.
But I try and stick with it as much as I can. I feel completely satisfied with the meals. I'm finding that I'm spending a lot more time cooking than I used to. Cooking where I can just, toss a piece of salmon in the oven is a lot easier than prepping rice and beans every week. But I am just very grateful to you all for both the support and all the knowledge you're imparting. So thank you.
Well, thanks for sharing that. And as your thought process goes, it's so much easier to throw the salmon. You may be focusing your thoughts on, I feel so good. What I wish I would have done this sooner. You can make the choice as to what thoughts you focus your attention on. And being healthy is so inspiring, so energizing. If we really focus our attention on that, that's really helpful to keep us on track.
Yeah, and every week I'm just learning new tricks and how to make streamline things and make it easier. So no, I'm really loving it. I don't when I started it, I thought, well, I'll give it a try, but I can't see myself ever going back. So
Well, thanks for sharing that with the group. Vonda.
You mentioned taking 1,000 micrograms daily of B12. If you don't take it daily, how much should you have like once a week?
Yeah, so if you're under age 65, it's 2,000 micrograms once a week. If you're over age 65, it's 1,000 micrograms daily.
Okay, and is it better to have them like a dissolvable pill or like a little capsule?
It doesn't matter for most people, but if you have a choice, I would do the dissolvable under the tongue. The reason is because sometimes people, if they have a lot of acid reflux and they're taking acid pills like Prilosec, for example, the stomach acid, reduced stomach acid, it can actually decrease the absorption of the B12 if you swallow it into your stomach. So with those people, I would say for sure under the tongue. But if you're not on an acid reducer, it probably doesn't matter. But the ones I get, they're dissolve under the tongue just because I don't know, it's just easier.
Okay, and is there a particular brand that you would recommend of vitamin?
No, that's a problem with vitamins. You just kind of use I've checked my levels because routinely, and so the brand I'm using, it seems to make them go up. So it doesn't really matter. They're not FDA regulated, so it's just a matter of whatever you used, and then if you're, I guess, you want to make sure your numbers coming up if you're seeing your doctor to make sure it's not too low or something like that.
Okay.
Same with vitamin D, but yeah, we don't have any particular brands that we recommend necessarily.
Scott,
Awesome. Thank you.
do you recommend like USP certified? Is that important to you?
I don't know how much it matters. I mean, I think Nature's Made is one that I've used. I just ordered off Amazon and it seems to be fine. But I see that label, but I don't know how much we can really trust those labels, to be honest.
Anybody else have anything that they care to add?
I just have a question about the vitamin B12. Is that a routine thing that we can ask to be tested for our levels of B12? Because I don't think that's ever come up with my blood panel.
It's not a real accurate test in terms of making a decision as to, you can have a normal B12 level and be B12 deficient. So unless you're having symptoms of some sort that would lead one to suspect vitamin B12 deficiency, it's not something that I would order.
Thank you.
So on your CBC, there's a thing called an MCV, which means mean corpuscular volume. It's the size of the blood cells. And if you're B12 or folate deficient, that MCV will be big. So that's like a clue. Like if your MCV is normal, it's on the blood panel and it says MCV. And it's about the size of the cells. If you're iron deficient, they're little and that MCV will be low. And if you're B12 or folate deficient, the MCV will be big. There'll be big cells, it'll be high. And then that would be a reason maybe to go further and check a B12 level.
Exactly. Giving everybody a little medicine 101 here.
Yeah. Thank you, Alice.
Alice, could you repeat those two numbers again for the low?
It's on your blood panel on the CBC, which is that, are you anemic? Is your white count okay? Or your platelets okay? There's a thing called M, like in man, C as in cat, and V as in victory. So MCV, which is it is a measurement of the size of the red cells. And it'll be on your CBC, like if you look on your CBC result. And if it's in the normal range, then you're probably okay. If it's small, like, I believe that what's the number, 90 to 110 is the range or something like that. But if it's like 70, then that means you're probably iron deficient. I mean, it also has to do with and if it's big, then you could be B12 or folate deficient. If it's high, like above 100.
That's so good to know. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so I'm going to go back to the gallery here so I can kind of see everybody who's got a picture, and I'm going to see, does anybody have an autoimmune disorder or know of someone who has an autoimmune disorder? You don't have to say whether you have it or not, but how many people are aware? Okay, so there's probably half the people in the room. So let's go ahead and play the first video to kind of let the rest of the people kind of know what this is all about, what we're going to spend a majority of our time on in this session. I'm going to share this whole thing here. And let's see if I can get to the share. Okay, so we are now in the share mode, and I need to just go over to my little hard drive. And let's see what the hard drive has to say. It says, go to another place. And the other place is here on the back end. Can you see the screen now, I hope?
Yes.
And then we're going over here to autoimmune. And we're going to kind of work on these videos right here, these 3, 6, 7 videos tonight. We're going to start with, this is what happens when you have autoimmune.
Let's get into autoimmune diseases, what they are, what they do, and the facts you need to know your body. Here's the breakdown. Our immune system is a network of special cells and organs that protect the body from disease and infection. The immune system can tell the difference between self and non-self, basically what's you and what's foreign. With an autoimmune disease, there's a glitch, and your body can't tell the difference, so it makes autoantibodies that attack healthy cells by mistake. There are over 80 different types that can affect almost any part of the body. Some common ones are rheumatoid arthritis, type 1 diabetes, lupus, celiac, Hashimoto's, and multiple sclerosis. Statistics vary on how many Americans have an autoimmune disease, with the National Institutes of Health estimating 23.5 million and AARDA quoting 50 million. One reason for the difference is how many types of diseases are included in the data counts. Symptoms are as vast as the parts of the body and can include fatigue, muscle aches, fever, depression, and inflammation. It can take a lot of visits to a lot of different specialists to be able to find the right diagnosis. A specialist focuses on treating diseases of a particular system of the body. A rheumatologist treats diseases affecting the joints and connective tissue. A neurologist deals with the central nervous system, and gastroenterologists treat the intestines. The causes of autoimmune diseases remain a mystery to solve, but there are some connecting factors. They can be inherited, so we know genes play a part, and environmental triggers like an infection or chemical exposure can sometimes create an autoimmune response. They're more common in women than men, and some tend to affect certain groups of people. Type 1 diabetes is more common in Caucasians, while lupus is most severe for African Americans and Hispanics. Treatments differ depending on the type of disease, so let's talk to an expert. Dr. Lakshan, what are the treatment options for someone with an autoimmune disease, and is there a cure?
Well, there's not really a cure, but in terms of treatments, we have anti-inflammatory drugs, corticosteroids, antimalarials, and we have drugs called immunosuppressives.
So basically, those drugs just keep the body from attacking itself, right?
That's the aim of those drugs.
I've read that diet could impact autoimmune diseases. How do lifestyle decisions factor in?
Well, diet works in two ways. Some people think that diseases are actually driven by things that you eat or things that you encounter in your environment. There's no single answer for every patient. You have to experiment.
It sounds like autoimmune diseases play by their own rules. So how can we win?
The best way is to have doctors talk to doctors from one specialty to another to describe and compare and evaluate the patient all as one team.
Thank you, Dr. Lakshan. This has been incredibly helpful, and I hope we've helped you to know your body.
So I'm going to stop the share for a moment and we'll come back and share again. And I want you to think about the very end of that video. And so, the first part of the video I was in, kind of total agreement with. And then what did I see? I say, ask a doctor who consults with another doctor who consults with another doctor. And what is happening here? What does the patient wind up with? Anybody?
10 different answers.
And what go along with the answers? What are each one of those doctors wind up advising?
Talking about their own specialty?
Another pill.
Yeah.
Another pill. And so what do you wind up with? A fistful or two fistfuls of pills. Yes or no?
Yeah.
Anybody had that experience? Okay. So one of the reasons for these sessions is to have you think critically, not accept everything that you hear or see. Try to think about the source, who's giving the advice. The doctor who she was quizzing said, some people believe. I got the immediate impression that he doesn't believe. There was nothing about his response about food that really encouraged people like, hey, I have several people who have reversed their problems, their autoimmune disorders because they changed what they were eating. There was not that sort of discussion. And so, different doctors and providers have different experiences, and hopefully you search out and find people who can be supportive. Any thoughts, other thoughts? Okay, I'm going to get on to the next. Remember, autoimmune disorders. The body somehow starts attacking itself for whatever reason, whether you have areas of inflammation that have been set up, whether, you have chronic infection somewhere, like a chronic sinus infection, or whether you're eating a certain food that has a molecule that looks similar to other of your body tissues, and the body attacks it as foreign and then starts attacking your own body. Yes, Fonda?
Does the thyroid issue go in with the autoimmune, or is that something that's separate?
So, in a sense, it goes along with autoimmune disorders. And we're going to be talking about that next week. Only because we have so much other autoimmune disorders, but it is considered autoimmune in nature.
I didn't know that.
Anything else? Okay, we have Neil Bernard, who's going to be teaching us about that next week. Let's see. So I'm going to go back and share. It's a little longer. It's like a 10-minute video that we're going to be in the room together here, and then we'll come back and get some more questions. And then we're going to have Scott kind of share the website and what's going on new with that, so you can all be brought up to date. We were waiting for people to kind of get on board, and we're up to 24. I think we started with 16 or 17 at the beginning of the session. So people either are just finding their way home here to their tribe, They've been out in the wilderness and they, okay, we see a little light out there and it must be that direction. And they made it to the room. So maybe there will be a couple more. We'll see. Anyway, let's get back to sharing. And we are going to go back, and every time I kind of do the share thing, I need to get back to the view of, I got to make that smaller.
Oh, man.
There we go. There we go. Back over here. And this is Pat McCauley. I think you'll find it an interesting kind of TED Talk.
I picked up my girlfriend at the train station on an average weekday night in December of 2015. The second she got in the car, I could tell something was bothering her. Sure enough, a few minutes later, she started complaining about a situation at work. We got home, ate some dinner, and sat on the couch to do a little work on our laptops. I thought for a second I was off the hook, but shortly thereafter, the venting resumed. Now, to that point in my life, and to that point in my relationship, anytime situations like that arose, let's just say I didn't handle them gracefully. They usually ended with me saying something like, "Don't bring that negative energy, figure it out." And I'd proceed to storm out of the room. Not my best quality, I know, but that was my way of dealing with it. But something was different about that night. For some unexplainable reason, I had this strange sense of calm and ease within me. Instead of my blood pressure rising, I sat there and actually listened to what she had to say. For the first time in my life, I felt someone else's pain and feelings as if they were my own. I reassured her it was all going to work out, and in the end, it'd be okay. I waited for her to respond, but no response came. Instead, she just leaned over and hugged me. I'll never forget that hug. In the months leading up to that night, I was 25 years old, waking up with pain in my hand so bad, I struggled to tie my shoes. My ankles, knees, and hips would crack like fireworks as I made my way up the stairs to the kitchen. I'd fire up my 4 eggs, no toast, didn't want the carbs, and I'd be out the door to the gym. I was an absolute machine. Yet, despite my military-like discipline to this high-protein diet and spending hours a day in the gym, and I mean hours, beneath the surface, I was battling arthritis, allergies, asthma, skin issues, and a number of other bodily problems I won't scare you with. Many of which I blamed on years of sports and 4 years of college football. I figured it was just part of getting old. I got to a point where I knew spending more time in the gym could not be the answer. I couldn't possibly work out more than I already was. I knew I had to change something on the diet side of things. So despite what everybody had told me, coaches, doctors alike, that a high-protein diet was best for both my health and fitness, I decided to try something new. I don't quite recall where the idea came from, but I remember thinking, nobody ever told me fruits and vegetables were a bad thing. That's one thing we can all agree on. The problem was I didn't really like fruits and vegetables. They were always the side to my hunk of meat that I would choke down or not touch at all. So I figured the most painless way to get them in was to fill the blender with some greens, any fruit and vegetables I had lying around, blend it up, and drink it down. I just started by replacing my 4 eggs in the morning with this green smoothie. That green smoothie gave me a taste of energy and mental clarity and a taste of feel-good that I had never before experienced.
Hi,
Over the next few weeks, I started experimenting. If I ate something that made me feel as good as that new high I was getting from that green smoothie, I kept it in play. If I ate something that didn't make me feel as good, I gave it a Gronk-like stiff arm. And us New Englanders know there's no coming back from a Gronk stiff arm. When I stepped back after those few weeks and looked at the new foods I was eating versus the ones I had eliminated, it was very clear to me that on one side was plant foods that I kept,
you're supposed to eat
and on the other side was animal foods.
B12.
I didn't quite know it at the time, but I had stumbled into what is commonly referred to today as a plant-based diet.
1,000 micrograms.
Over the next 6 months of following a primarily whole food plant-based diet, not only did I continue to experience crazy amounts of energy and mental clarity, not only did I effortlessly lose that football weight and get down to the weight I always desired, not only did I get stronger in the gym, not only did I get faster on my runs, but every single health issue I had battled since I was 3 years old went away. The allergies, the asthma, the arthritis, all of it gone. I couldn't help but wonder why at no point in my life did any doctor, nutritionist, parent, teacher, coach, friend, anybody give me that information. When I went to the doctor, whenever I had a problem, they'd tell me what was wrong, then they'd give me the pill, the inhaler, the EpiPen, the cream. We live in a system where, say if you're walking around with a splinter in your foot and you're limping around and you're in pain. In most cases, you go to the doctor, they say, you have a splinter in your foot. Here's an orthotic for your shoe. Here's a cane to help you walk. Here's a pill to numb the pain. Wouldn't it make more sense to just reach down and pull the splinter out? Why wasn't I given that option? Because I would have chosen it years prior. I realize my health issues may seem trivial to some of you, but I didn't like bringing my inhaler to football practice in front of my buddies. I didn't like bringing an EpiPen to my girlfriend's house. It was embarrassing. So when all these things went away, it was a profound experience for me. I felt like I had been lied to my whole life. I decided to quit my job and seek answers. What I found and what I learned shocked me. I learned that over 2 million Americans will die from disease-related causes this year. I learned that over half of those are from our top 2 killers, heart disease and cancer. I learned that heart disease is preventable and reversible, that the only diet on the planet that has been proven time and time again to not only stop in its tracks, but reverse our #1 killer is a plant-based diet. Dr. Dean Ornish demonstrated this way back in 1990, coincidentally the year I was born. I learned that according to the American Cancer Institute, just 5 to 10% of all cancers come from purely genetic factors. That means that 90+% of the deaths from our top 2 killers are actually a result of our diet and lifestyle. That means that whatever health situation you're in right now, it's not a result for 9 out of 10 of us, maybe more. It's not a result of a bad genetic draw or that it runs in the family, but rather it's a direct result of what we choose to eat and do on a daily basis. So to rephrase that top number, nearly 2 million Americans will die this year from their very own diet and lifestyle. I learned that in 2015, the World Health Organization declared processed meats a class 1 carcinogen, and all red meats a probable carcinogen, meaning that we know without a doubt these foods promote the growth of cancer in the human body. Another widely used class 1 carcinogen is cigarettes. I learned that not just processed meats and red meats are the only problem. That according to the American Association of Cancer Research, all animal protein, including fish, dairy, and eggs, raises the level of cancer growth hormone IGF-1 in the human body. I could go on and on about the benefits of eating more plants and less animals, but there are many more experts out there that can do a better job than I can. But the evidence is so overwhelming that states like California have been fighting to remove processed meats from public schools, and that the country of Canada has removed dairy as a food group from their 2018 food pyramid and no longer advises their citizens to consume it. A number of doctors that I encourage you all to check out that have spent a lifetime studying this: Dr. Dean Ornish that I mentioned, Dr. Colin T. Campbell, Dr. Caldwell Esselstyn, Dr. Neil Bernard, and Dr. Michael Greger. And I highly encourage you familiarize yourself with their work. Now back to that night in December of 2015. What was going on?
So I thought he did a pretty good job, even though he said others could do it better than he could, of kind of laying out the case for doing what? More plants, less animal products. There was some noise in the background, so I had to interrupt the video a bit to try to cancel people's microphones out. And I know it takes a little while. We probably have some new people who, you know, maybe not used to Zoom, and that will get better with time. I'll try to remember to mute everybody when I share a video for the future. Any thoughts on what he had to say there? Okay, a thumb up and a hand. Vicky.
Hi. I have been telling a friend who's got some issue about this group, and they're going to try to come sometime. But they were pointing out that NBC had a report the other day that said that about a year ago they did this study and they realized that plant lifestyle can really help extend longevity and improve health. And I was saying, where the hell have they been? The China study came out in 2005, and it was like years in the making and like thousands of people being studied over many, many years. And to me, it's so frustrating that people don't know this stuff already, that this hasn't been put out there. And I'm so proud of Canada and California for doing, acknowledging this and taking steps in the right direction. But we just have a society that refuses to change. And I texted in earlier in the chat that I watched the Game Changers regarding the protein issue. And these vegans are people, even as they get older, are setting, world records for strength and athleticism by being vegan, and how their individual, highest abilities have increased tremendously, but their world records are being made by vegans these days. So anyway, I just wanted to say how frustrating it is to know that this has been known a long time, but I'm sure we'll talk about how different industries try to prevent that.
Yeah, I think you hit upon the reason why news media has not been particularly leading the charge to promote this. They probably get quite a bit of funding from meat, dairy, and egg industries, and so it's just the realities we live under. But channeling our frustration into action, doing another class, sharing with friends and family the benefits, sharing another article, Greger's Daily Dozen, whatever you can do on a personal level to just keep spreading the word, ultimately will go a long way to changing our system. That's my belief. All right, anybody else have anything they care to share? Ready for the next video? Here we go. I'm gonna see if I can mute everybody. I can't remember how I did that. I guess I went to the participants.
I think there is a mute all somewhere. I used to be a host.
There used to be, here's host tools, which says remove participant, rename. Doesn't say anything about muting everyone. So if everybody could kind of just check to make sure that you're muted, I will go back onto sharing the screen and we will get back to the next video. And this is from Joel Furman. And then we're going to hear from Joel Furman. We're going to hear from Michael Clapper. We're going to hear from Brooke Goldner. And I think from Gregor in the next 4 videos. And then we'll kind of stop and have a little more discussion. Here we go.
To the podcast. I'm Dr. Lori Marbus, and I'm so honored to have Dr. Joel Furman with us today. How are you, sir?
Doing great. Excited to be here and talk to you.
Wonderful. Well, we have 2 cases from the journal that we want to discuss with you today. The first one is efficacy of a plant-based anti-inflammatory diet as monotherapy in psoriasis. And so I think, there is some confusion as to some people maybe what psoriasis is. Could you give us a little background and just explaining what psoriasis is?
Yes, there's more than 100 different autoimmune diseases where your own immune system is attacking your body in some way. And it's related to a degree of heightened inflammation. An autoimmune disease where you attack your skin and develop skin plaques is called psoriasis, but it can be associated with a disease like rheumatoid arthritis. When you have joint pain plus the skin disease, then it's usually called psoriatic arthritis. In this case we're discussing, this person did have joint pain and psoriasis, so she really had psoriatic arthritis, and she also had Sjogren's syndrome, which is another autoimmune disease that gives you dry mouth and dry eyes and other symptoms. She almost had a lupus-type syndrome. Lupus and rheumatoid arthritis and ulcerative colitis and multiple sclerosis are also common autoimmune diseases. And I'm suggesting that in my 30 years of practice, I've had very rewarding and remarkable successes in all those cases with multiple sclerosis, with lupus, with ulcerative colitis, with rheumatoid arthritis, with psoriasis, and with psoriatic arthritis, inducing complete remissions where people did not have to be sick and have those diseases the rest of their life. And we're using this psoriasis case of psoriatic arthritis case as an example, because most of my 30 years as a busy family physician seeing these people, I didn't keep contact and continue to keep the information to be able to want to write these up and write them up as cases, but I've kept in contact with some of these people, and here's a person that I know now because I think she came to me in 2005 or 2006, so this is about 15 years later, and it was a remarkable case because she was so ill, and she could hardly move in bed for so long, taking drugs for her psoriatic arthritis, and had such a limited life. And then when that year when she got well and got rid of her psoriasis and her psoriatic arthritis completely, she played volleyball, she played tennis, she climbed mountains. She went away to one of her getaways at the Red Mountain Spa, and she put her arms up in the air and said, "Look at me, I'm a miracle." And I said, "You're not a miracle. This is just what nutritional excellence can do for people, that these are inflammatory conditions." And it seems like a miracle because the conventional medical approach is to give people chemotherapeutic agents to suppress the immune system instead of excellent nutrition to remove the inflammation and to allow the body to resolve these conditions. And I'm excited to be part and to contribute some of these cases to the journal because I really feel that we can definitely, if people they're suffering greatly and they're not being told that there's an option for them to get well here.
Right, absolutely.
Okay, so that's one video. Let's go on to treating lupus. Autoimmune disease. I think this is Clapper, maybe. Yeah.
Do you believe that there is a way that a plant-based diet can cure autoimmune conditions?
Oh my, what an important question. When I was in medical school, if I was told a patient has a diagnosis of lupus or rheumatoid arthritis, this is a lifetime curse. They will never get out from under this. We don't know what causes it, but nobody gets better. But science marches on, and in the intervening years, We see a lot has to do with the so-called leaky gut phenomenon. We injure the wall of our intestines, and especially animal products, the fragments of animal muscle and nerve and tendon and all those things you bite into when you bite into a chicken breast or eat a burger. Fragments of animal tissue get into the bloodstream. Antibodies are made against it that lock onto our own tissues. We get these so-called autoimmune diseases and put these scary names on them. But it has a lot to do with our diet. And now there are many reports in the literature of people who have reversed autoimmune diseases using a whole food plant-based diet and judicious use of other supplements and a healthy lifestyle practice, of course, with enough sleep, reduced stress, etc. So the answers are resounding yes, absolutely. And if people want guidance on how to do this, 2 places to look. One is go to my website, drklapper.com, and click on answers, and you'll see an article I wrote called Diet, Arthritis, and Uncommon Sense. Oh, I think I changed it, Diet, Autoimmune Disease, and Uncommon Sense. And it details how you can use a plant-based diet to help reverse these autoimmune diseases. And I'd also refer you to the website of my good friend and fellow physician, Dr. Brooke Goldner. She's a practicing, not only she's a psychiatrist, but she cured herself of lupus, which she got when she was a medical resident. She was headed for the dialysis machine. She was in terrible shape with this, but she adopted a whole food plant-based diet and lots of green smoothies with ground up omega-3 containing seeds in it, and goodbye lupus, that she was able to say with a big smile on her face. And in fact, her book and her website have that very same title, Goodbye Lupus. So I suggest you do a internet search on that phrase, Goodbye Lupus. It'll take you to Dr. Goldner's website, and do follow her program. And you too can be one of the many who've walked right out from under a diagnosis of lupus, ankylosing spondylitis, rheumatoid arthritis. Yes, these autoimmune diseases are absolutely treatable and usually reversible with a whole food, plant-based vegan diet. So reason for hope, reason for action. I hope you take advantage of it.
Absolutely. Very helpful and very hopeful.
Hi, everyone.
So that's another reason we're sharing these with you. We want you to have hope. And someone asked about the TED Talk person. It's Pat McCauley, and it's a plant-based diet changed my life. You can find that on YouTube, Pat McCauley. Now we're going to 2 more videos, and then we'll stop for a moment. This is anti-inflammatory diet for lupus. I think this is a Gregor video. Then we're going to listen to Brooke Goldner and take a little breather.
These are the journals I try to stay on top of every month, but now I have a new one to add to the list. The International Journal of Disease Reversal and Prevention, a new peer-reviewed medical journal created to document the science of nutrition and lifestyle to prevent, suspend, and reverse disease, with an editor-in-chief no less prestigious than Dr. Kim Williams, chief of cardiology at Rush and past president of the American College of Cardiology. I was honored to join their editorial advisory board, along with so many of my heroes, and the best part is it's free. Go to ijdrp.org and put in your email to subscribe for free, and you'll be alerted when new issues are out, which you can download in full for free in PDF form. Instead of preventing chronic lifestyle diseases, we doctors just tend to manage them. Instead of curing, we just mitigate. Why? Because of finance, culture, habit, tradition. Yeah, many of us envision a world where trillions of dollars are not wasted on unnecessary medical care. For this reason comes the International Journal of Disease Reversal and Prevention. After all, without data, you're just another person with an opinion. Just to give you a taste, how about pitting plants against one of the most inflammatory diseases out there, lupus, an autoimmune disease in which your body can start attacking your own DNA. Kidney inflammation is a common consequence, and even with our armamentarium of immunosuppressant drugs and steroids, lupus-induced kidney inflammation can lead to end-stage renal disease, meaning dialysis, and death. Unless perhaps you pack your diet with some of the most anti-inflammatory foods out there, and your kidney function improves so much you no longer need dialysis or a kidney transplant. Another similar case is also presented with a resolution in symptoms and normal kidney function, unless he deviated from the diet. Even just cutting out animal products, randomizing people to cut out meat, eggs, and dairy without significantly increasing fruit and vegetable intake, can cut C-reactive protein levels, a sensitive indicator of whole-body inflammation, by nearly a third within 8 weeks. But with lupus, they weren't messing around. A pound of leafy greens and cruciferous vegetables a day, like kale, fruits like berries and lots of chia or flax, and a gallon of water a day. Basically a green smoothie diet to extinguish lupus flares. Note, though, if your kidneys are already compromised, this should be done under physician supervision so they can monitor your electrolytes like potassium and make sure you don't get overloaded with fluid. Bottom line, with such remarkable improvements due to dietary changes alone, the hope is that researchers will take up the mantle and formally put it to the test. Autoimmune inflammatory skin disease reversals can be particularly striking visually. A woman with a 35-year history of psoriasis, unsuccessfully managed for year after year with drugs, suffering from other autoimmune conditions like Sjogren's as well, but put her on an extraordinarily healthy diet, packed with greens and other vegetables, fruits, nuts, seeds, avocados, some whole grains, and boom, before and after. Within a year, she went from 40% of her entire body surface area inflamed and affected down to 0%, completely clear. Oh, and her Sjogren's symptoms resolved as well, as a bonus, while helping to normalize her weight and cholesterol. Speaking of autoimmune diseases, what about the treatment of type 1 diabetes with plants? We'll find out next.
Okay, and so one last video, and then we'll open up to have a little bit of a discussion. Have some fun with that, and leave one last video for the very end of the session. So here we go with Brooke Goldner.
Welcome, Dr. Goldner.
Thank you so much.
Well, it's wonderful to have you here. So let's start with the basics. Dotsie talked a little bit about autoimmune disease and some facts and figures, but tell us, what is an autoimmune disease?
So you guys are right. Autoimmune diseases are more common than ever before. And what they are really your immune system no longer functioning in the proper way. So when you think about your immune system, the purpose of your immune system is to keep you safe from foreign invaders, right? You get a virus, if you get a bacteria, then your immune system's supposed to create antibodies that attack and kill that invader and keep you healthy. Your immune system also does other things, like if you bang your knee on the corner of the bed, it gets swollen because your body's sending inflammatory mediators there with all the blood and all the cells necessary to repair the damage. So our immune system is really what keeps us intact and keeps us healthy. But when you've got problems with your immune system, which we now know are mediated by an excess amount of inflammation, then the immune system stops functioning properly. And instead of just fighting against foreign invasions like bacteria and viruses, it can start attacking your own cells and your own organs because it can no longer recognize the difference. And that's what we call autoimmune disease. And there's many different diseases, as you mentioned, and some of them can cause things like arthritis. And other ones can actually cause organ failure, like lupus, where it can attack your kidneys, your brain, your heart, your lungs, and end up killing people, usually at a young age. Usually pretty young people are affected by diseases like lupus.
So it sounds like crossed wires. Your body starts to not know the difference between healthy cells and healthy tissue and unhealthy. So it's attacking both, but obviously the bad part is it's attacking healthy tissues and perfectly healthy cells.
And actually what ends up happening is the immune system is so out of whack that it can be attacking healthy tissues and not fighting infections. Like I myself had lupus from the age of 16, and I was in kidney failure from lupus, but I had a sinus infection that lasted 6 months because I couldn't fight a cold. My immune system was doing all the wrong stuff, and there wasn't enough of it left over to do the right thing.
But I want to hear your story because it's inspiring, and set you on this journey to being the doctor that you are, helping people with autoimmune diseases. Can you give us a list? Just tell us about some of the diseases that are autoimmune diseases, because I think people might, certainly I might think some diseases are, I don't know whether they're autoimmune or not.
Yeah, there's so many. The most common ones we hear about would be lupus, rheumatoid arthritis, Sjogren's, scleroderma, and multiple sclerosis. And then there's people who have kind of a hodgepodge of symptoms where they might be told they have mixed connective tissue disease, which just means you have some signs or symptoms of multiple different types of autoimmune disease. And then others who are told you have autoimmune stuff, but the doctors don't know exactly which thing it is. And really, in my mind, it's all the same. I don't consider that there's 80 autoimmune diseases. There's an autoimmune process that happens in the body, and which antibodies you develop or which symptoms you get might be helpful for the doctor in terms of what he's billing, right? When we're billing, we need a diagnosis. When we're prescribing a medicine and justifying the medicine, we need a diagnosis. But in terms of the process and how it happens in the body, it's really all the same, which is why I'm able to help people reverse any and all of those really with the same protocol, because in terms of how the body's functioning and where the autoimmune disease is coming from, it's really the same thing, and your body doesn't know that it's filling any certain diagnoses. And that's actually a good thing, you know, that you don't need to have a set in stone diagnosis. If you're just starting to have symptoms, you can still change your lifestyle and your diet and reverse those without ever having known exactly which billing code it would have fit into.
Right. So is Parkinson's an autoimmune disease?
Parkinson's is not considered autoimmune per se. It is an inflammatory condition. And actually, I've had someone with Parkinson's do my rapid recovery program. And that's a 4-week program where you're stuck having to communicate with me every day, and I control your life and everything you eat and everything you do. And he actually did my program because his neurologist was interested in my program and wanted to know if it could be beneficial for Parkinson's. Right. So he was he agreed to do it, but it wasn't necessarily something he would have looked for on his own. And he ate the pretty standard diet, meat and dairy and all those things. And within 4 weeks, his symptoms were so much better that his friends and family noticed how much better he looked, and his doctor was able to lower his medication dosage. And then after he was done with this 4-week experiment, he went back to his previous diet, and he said he quickly went back to the same condition he was in before he started. And that really was eye-opening for the patient to say, whoa, not only did I get better rapidly, but I was able to undo it pretty quickly too by returning to the foods that I used to eat.
So thank you so much for tuning in today.
Okay, so we're going to stop the share here, and we're going to get back to the room and answer your questions. And I do want to make one comment. I listened to Dr. Greger today on osteoporosis, his webinar, and learned about 9 fruit and vegetables to actually really get your best bang for the buck. So if you're not eating 9 fruit and vegetables, and you're worried about a problem with osteopenia or osteoporosis, which is a different topic than we're dealing now, but one that we get almost every week. Someone is asking us questions on this. I would encourage you to listen to his webinar on osteoporosis. It's almost 2 hours long. It's worth listening to. I just wanted to share that. And sharing his site, I guess we can go online. And Scott, I'm going to go online so you can kind of share some information about our website. So particularly for the new people, you go to livelifestylemedicine.com, and there is the site. So I'll scroll along if you want to talk.
Yeah, so I think most, or is there anyone in the room that isn't familiar with the website?
I'm pretty sure there are a couple people.
Everybody's
So
muted and not everybody knows how to unmute.
okay. So it's livelifestylemedicine.com. And what I recommend doing is go to subscribe to the weekly class newsletter, that tab there. And if you're not getting that, you can click there and add your name and email, and you'll get a welcome newsletter as well as a newsletter every Sunday morning. And if you don't get that, you'll want to check your spam folder, your junk file, because it can go there sometimes. And then next thing is just to go all the way down to where it actually says the website tutorial. So anyone that's new to this website, I recommend going to this website tutorial here and clicking on that video. It's about 14 minutes long, and it's just me giving a full tour of the website, how to access all the recordings of the classes, where all the resources are and everything like that. So definitely do that. And this is where you can also, if you go back up, where you can click the link to get to the class you're in right now. So one more up is that's the in-person class at the Grange. There's the Zoom link right there. So if you just click on that, that'll take you to this Zoom class right here every Tuesday from 7 to 8:30. Then the next one down is the in-person class every Friday from 7 to 8:30 at the Irving Grange. And so that's just information about that. There's the address and stuff there. And then also scroll down to the very bottom of this homepage, and that's where the class schedule is. And so if you want just to see what the next upcoming classes are, you can scroll in within that, and it'll show you what time and which class it is. And we'll put other events coming up there when they pop up. And so you can check that out there. And I also put the link on the online classes. The link is in there as well for the Zoom. But so so definitely check out the website tutorial and get familiar with the website and all the resources there.
All right. Anybody have any questions about that? Or any questions about anything else?
Well, I'm Lucia, and I'm taking this class because I'm in this group that there's a person who really took the time. I mean, they're wonderful people who really trying to help one another. And I feel like, my God, she sent me the information. I got to do it. And normally this class would have been like perfect for me maybe a year ago, because I really used to believe that with a good diet, I was going to die healthy. If you know what I mean, like the day that I don't know, die healthy, maybe became unhealthy 2 days before or something. But now I'm sort of giving up on health. And my focus is more on the poor animals that are being so mistreated and all that, because I still have a good heart. But I'm giving up on health because I'm kind of believing that it's more about genes than anything else. I used to recommend to people, all the vegetables and the good fats and not too much fat and forget sugar and all those things. And now I feel like, thanks God, I'm not working anymore, because I would really look like a hypocrite. Because I think in the end, it might be more about genes than anything else, because I have recently been diagnosed with cerebral small vessel disease. And that has depressed me so much. And I've been looking for research on everything on it. And of course, it's something that is not being very well studied yet. And so I'm getting ready to say, oh, that's the way it is. Eventually we all, I don't know. It's really hard. So if anybody here knows anything about that disease and any really good science behind anything about it, give me meds, give me a specific diet, I would go for it if there were an opportunity to reduce the progression, not to reduce the progression, to slow the progression, because I am so scared that I'm going to become senile. Because I have a 17.5% chance of becoming senile within the next 3 years. So it's like, wow, why did I spend so many times in the kitchen cooking so from scratch and all this, in the end, I'm going to the gym and yeah, when in the end it might be about genes because my dad probably had it. Now that I'm thinking about it.
So we hear what you're saying, and we sense your fear of developing dementia and those sorts of things. And we probably are not going to be able to resolve everything in the one online session here. So we're going to offer that you can meet with us on a regular basis. It doesn't cost anything. I'll be happy to meet with you and discuss and share videos, but I do want to just briefly answer. Dr. Dean Ornish did a study in which he showed reversal of cardiovascular disease, unclogging of the heart arteries. This was about 35 years ago.
Yeah.
He did another study which showed reducing the PSA level, which is sort of in effect reversing prostate cancer. He's recently provided results from a study on reversing dementia. And Scott and I were just down at that seminar in Los Angeles in September. We watched his video, we listened to him speak, and it was totally inspiring how people, like one person, couldn't play an instrument because of the dementia. He was a music instructor or teacher or something like that. And when he went on Ornish's diet and program of lifestyle, doing, making healthy choices, he regained his ability to actually play his musical instrument. So it looks as though if you can reverse a disease, you can prevent it. And so by making healthier choices, I would try to reassure you that the choices you make can really overcome whatever genetic tendency you have toward developing this. Now, I can't do that in one session, but we're offering to do it over a period of time. And all you need to do is send me an email at katanyaross@msn.com. I think that address is somewhere on the website. Maybe it's not. What do you think, Scott?
Yeah, it's under the contact us section, and it's also on the homepage there, where right at the bottom of the where it says if you have any questions about the in-person classes at the Irving Grange, contact Charlie, and it has your email right there. But it's also under the contact list.
Could you type it into the chat too, so that they can have it right away in case they don't know?
Yeah, I can type it into the chat. And not everybody knows how to use the chat. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yes.
So that's why I've kind of gotten out of the habit of doing it, but I'll do it here.
Yeah, at the bottom of the bottom bar, there's something that says chat, and if you click the arrow, it'll open a box and you can read what it says in there.
Oh yes, I can read something now. My husband just pushed on that.
All right, it's katanyaross@msn.com. Send me an email with your phone number, and I'll be happy to call you.
Oh my God.
Let me know what time that's best convenient, afternoon or evening.
You're gonna make me cry. I feel kind of bad.
Don't feel bad. That's why we do these classes.
Oh my God. Okay, so you gotta give my husband your email here because I'm just
Okay, wifey. Okay. Yes,
it's katanyaross@msn.com. KATANIAROSS@msn.com.
TanyaRoss@msn.com. Thank you
Very
so
good.
much.
You're very welcome. All right, let's see who else has some questions.
Wow.
Nancy.
Yes. I was, kind of messing around watching various people out on the internet, and I'm not too sure what program it was with, but there was a guy, his name was Jeffrey Palmer, Geoffrey, that kind of Jeffrey. And he was talking about omega-3s. And it was stuff that I'd kind of maybe gotten a little idea about, but he you know, he talked like he knew that this was the research and so on, and that we really didn't need extra, you know, omega-3 supplements because our body takes, well, if we're getting enough ALA, if we're getting enough of that, our body takes it and makes what it needs. And most of the omega-3s are in the brain. You know, it develops when you're a baby and it kind of stays there. And so on a regular basis, we adults don't need as much omega-3. That's what he was saying. So I'm just wondering if anybody knows about him or, you know, what, you know, what's going on with that. So I'm just curious.
I don't know about him. Scott has a good explanation about omega-3 and the omega-6 and what the choices you make. I don't know if you care to chime in, Scott.
Yeah, so yeah, I'm not familiar with him either, but he's kind of sounded like, you know, because the science has kind of been going back and forth on the omega-3 and specifically the long chain EPA, DHA, and especially when it comes to supplements. We used to recommend fish oil tablets and stuff to prevent heart disease, and then that dropped by the wayside because that was found to not be beneficial. And then of course all the pollutants and stuff in the fish oil capsules, and so those aren't recommended anymore. And then when it comes to the DHA EPA supplements, you can get it from made from algae, sea algae, and can be in a sterile vat that they make it. And so, but the studies kind of go back and forth whether it's good or not, especially for brain health. There was big bandwagon for using it for preventing dementia and treating dementia and things like that. And then there was a paper that got published not too long ago that showed that the supplement form of DHA EPA doesn't even cross the blood-brain barrier, so it doesn't even actually get to the brain. So it's like, do we really need it? And then what she was saying about is true about that if you get enough ALA, which is the short chain omega-3, it gets converted then into the long chain omega-3, the EPA and the DHA. But what makes it hard to convert the short chain to the long chain is the omega-6, which is the inflammatory essential fatty acids. There's only one essential omega-6 essential fatty acid that's not that is anti-inflammatory. The rest are pro-inflammatory, and those omega-6 fatty acids are mostly found in processed foods like processed oils and stuff like that. Even olive oil has a 14 times more omega-6 than omega-3. And so the ideal amount is to get about 1-to-1 or 4-to-1 omega-6 to omega-3, because we do need omega-6. It's one of the essential fatty acids. But so as long as you're cutting down on your oils and your processed foods, and you're eating lots of things like nuts and seeds, like chia seeds, flax seeds, walnuts, you're getting plenty of short chain ALA, omega-3, and then you're going to convert that. Your body will convert that into the long chain, and so they'll be in that ideal range. And we know that the omega-3s that we get from food do apparently make it to our brain, but the supplements, that's where the debate is. But I know maybe that's more than you wanted to know, but about omega-3.
That's kind of what he was saying. But I remember when I took the nutrition class, it was talking about there was a competition between the omega-6s and the omega-3s, and we get so much more omega-6 and omega-3. So we get deficient in omega-3. Is that kind of the thing that's going on? So most people are actually deficient in omega-3 because they're getting too much omega-6. Is that something that makes sense?
Yeah, you're maybe not deficient in omega-3 short chain, but you're deficient in long chain, because the omega-6 suppresses the conversion of short chain omega-3 to long chain omega-3. And so if you're still eating plenty of chia seeds and flax seeds and walnuts, you have and hemp seeds, you have plenty of short chain omega-3. But if you're eating tons of processed foods and processed oils, then you might still be deficient in the long chain, because of all that omega-6 is suppressing that conversion to the long chain.
And taking
all right, so I need to stop this conversation I have one more video to play and one more quick question, and we'll get back to this again. We're not done with this topic. It'll come up over and over again. Vonda?
Oh, I just wanted to share about Dean Ornish. I've listened to him on people's podcasts, on people's shows, and seen the testimonies from the people that were in his Alzheimer's study. It's just absolutely amazing. And it just gives everybody hope. And it's a little shocking to find out that he has one of the genes, I believe from his mother, that is like the Alzheimer gene. And he's doing all these lifestyle good things, and there's hope.
Thanks for sharing that, and I'm going to share that with our other classmate. Okay, one last video to kind of keep up with what's going on with the other group. I'm going to share this back here, and then we're going to come back over here. And it's a key issue because many of us don't give too much thought about the salt or sodium in our diet, but it's important.
Millions suffer from asthma attacks triggered by exercise. Within 5 minutes of starting exercising, people can get short of breath, start coughing and wheezing, such that lung function significantly drops. But on a high-salt diet, the attack is even worse. Whereas on a low-salt diet, there's hardly a significant drop in function at all. To figure out why, researchers had them all cough up sputum from their lungs, and those on the high-salt diet ended up with triple the inflammatory cells, and up to double the concentration of inflammatory mediators. But why? What does salt intake have to do with inflammation? We didn't know until now. The Western diet, high in saturated fat and salt, has long been postulated as one potential cause for the increasing incidence of autoimmune diseases in developed countries. The rapidly increasing incidence of autoimmune diseases may be due to an overactivation of immune cells called helper 17 cells. The development of multiple sclerosis, psoriasis, type 1 diabetes, Sjogren's, asthma, and rheumatoid arthritis have all been shown to involve this T helper 17-driven inflammation, and one trigger for the activation of those Th17 cells may be elevated levels of salt in our bloodstream. The sodium content of processed foods and fast food can be more than 100 times higher in comparison to similar homemade meals. And sodium chloride, salt, appears to drive autoimmune disease by the induction of these disease-causing Th17 cells. Turns out there's a salt-sensing enzyme responsible for triggering the formation of these Th17 cells. Organ damage caused by high-salt diets may also activate another type of inflammatory immune cell. A high-salt diet can overwork the kidneys, starving them of oxygen, triggering inflammation. The more salt they gave people, the more activation of inflammatory monocyte cells associated with high salt intake induced kidney oxygen deficiency. But this study only lasted 2 weeks. What about long-term? One of the difficulties in doing sodium experiments is it's hard to get free-living folks to maintain a specific salt intake. You can do what are called metabolic ward studies, where essentially lock people in a hospital ward for a few days and control their food intake, but can't do that long-term unless you can lock people in a space capsule. Mars 520 was a 520-day space flight simulation to see how people might do on the way to Mars and back. What they found was that those on a high-salt diet displayed a markedly higher number of monocytes, which are a type of immune cell you often see increased in settings of chronic inflammation and autoimmune disorders. This may reveal one of the consequences of excess salt consumption in our everyday lives, since that so-called high salt intake may actually just be the average salt intake. Furthermore, there was an increase in the levels of pro-inflammatory mediators and a decrease in the level of anti-inflammatory mediators, suggesting that a high-salt diet has the potential to bring about an excessive immune response, which may damage the immune balance and result in either difficulties in getting rid of inflammation or even an increased risk of autoimmune disease. What if you already have an autoimmune disease? Sodium intake is associated with increased disease activity in multiple sclerosis. If you follow MS patients for a few years, those eating more salt had 3 to 4 times the exacerbation rate, 3 times more likely to develop new MS lesions in their brains, and on average had 8 more brain lesions, 14 in their brain compared to 6 in the low-salt group. So the next step is to try treating patients with salt reduction and see if they get better. But since reducing our salt intake is a healthy thing to do anyway, I don't see why anyone should have to wait.
Okay, so we made it through the videos. We made it through last Friday. And now we have time for just a couple more questions. Or closing the loop on any of the other questions we've had. Anybody?
I have one.
Yes, go ahead, Marcia.
What can make a person's hand fold up like this and be hard to use? Is that osteoporosis or what is it?
You mean you have sort of like a cramping sensation, the muscles kind of?
No, that's how their hand is. They can't. Their hand looks like it's permanently this way. And I saw it today on someone today, and that's how their hand was.
So they might have a paralysis, they might have some nerve damage, they could have nerve or muscle damage, which could cause, maybe had an old stroke, that could cause them not being able to have their extremity in a normal position.
Okay.
Any other thoughts from anyone? It's so fun to be back in the room with everybody and not have to be, focusing on just the in-person people. We kind of have been ignoring the online people to a large extent, and this has been a fun session tonight. And Scott, do you have anything else to add here?
No.
Okay.
Glad everyone's here.
Yeah, go ahead, Carol.
Charlie, I have been an over salt eater all of my life, and it's the one thing that's been a little bit hard as I make this transition, although I've probably cut my salt intake by 90%. But do you have any tips or tricks to help us get over the need for salt?
So you've cut it 90%, where the goal is to get your salt intake to about 1,500 to 2,000 milligrams a day. So if you add up what you're actually getting, you may be getting, if you've cut it down 90%, you may be in that range. So having a little bit of salt is probably okay.
Okay, so 1,500 to 2,000 is okay?
Yes. And you want to have at least a pinch or of iodized salt if you're not eating sea vegetables or getting iodine from some other source.
Okay, I started an iodine supplement because I've also used sea salt for most of my life. And when I was taking supplements, my vitamin supplement took care of the iodine. So
okay, so if you're getting enough iodine, that's great, but you can manage your salt. And if you want to cut it back, Jerry has light salt there. It's got half potassium and half sodium. So that would be another option for you to use what's called light salt.
Okay. Well, I think I'm probably doing okay because I read that same numbers, and I found out that 2,000 milligrams is about a teaspoon of salt a day. And so the first week I put a teaspoon of salt in a small dish, and it lasted all week. So
Wow.
Right.
Fantastic.
Great.
oh, I guess I really miss it in things like when I cook my beans and rice. If I salt.
So you could probably eat more than a teaspoon for the whole week. If you're cooking beans and rice, to use a quarter teaspoon or a half a teaspoon, whatever it is with your, I don't know how many beans you're cooking at a time, but it would be spread out over several days, I suspect.
Yeah.
And so if you're keeping track like that, good for you. And you could add a little taste that way, or you could sprinkle a little bit on where you need less actually when you sprinkle it on top of the real food on your plate.
Yeah, well, and I'm still eating a lot of salads, and your suggestion for the balsamic vinegars is, I mean, I'm just not even using salt on my salads anymore, and they're low.
Right. Okay, Vicky.
Oh, I didn't know if you could see it because it was so faint. Yeah, and I substitute a lot of spices for salt, and including lemon, garlic, sometimes just garlic, the liquid that comes off from the garlic, and what's the other one? Oh, vinegar. Just a teaspoon or a couple of teaspoons of vinegar in a pot of beans adds a lot of flavor too. But I just, the seasoning sometimes are enough
Okay.
to reduce it.
I'm finding that I thought I had to get rid of it entirely, and I'm finding that was pretty hard. So
Well, it's a gift to you tonight. You don't have to get rid of it entirely. Okay, so it's been fun talking with you all, spending time. Look forward to meeting with you again next week. We got up to 23 people or so this class, which is pretty nice. And I suspect it'll keep growing over a period of time. You can bring your friends and family if you choose to do that. We got plenty of space online here. Don't have to worry about setting up chairs. Good to see you also, Alice, back again from vacation, and everybody else who's here. Okay.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you so much. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Good night.
Good night.
Thank you. Thank you. That was wonderful. Wow, isn't that wonderful? How do I get out of this, Mike? I don't even know. I don't even know how to sign out.
look at the bottom right hand of your screen, and there should be a red Leave Meeting tab.
Oh, meetings. Oh, thank you so much. Thank you. I see meetings.
And
Meeting.
don't lose help. There is hope, and this.
Oh my God! Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
It's totally changed my life.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I'm so glad.
Good luck, dear.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Leave.
Oh, I guess he